Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Mary Key Children and Family Services Go Virtual, the Benefits of Online Supports webinar. I am Ricardo Mangrum, Senior Clinical Director of Education Services. It's been quite the road these past few months, adjusting to the ever-changing circumstances of a worldwide pandemic. But we hope to share with everyone how Mary Key adapted to and overcame the challenges COVID-19 presented. We will highlight some of the benefits that the Mary Key Children and Family Services team members found from providing virtual services and the lessons learned for the future. Mary Key Children and Family Services are divided into three main service categories: community, education, and family services. Therefore, we have the senior executive directors of each of these areas presenting this evening. Throughout the presentations, we will be collecting your questions in the Q&A section of your screen. At the end of all the presentations, we will address as many questions as possible. So without further ado, it is my privilege to introduce you to our first speaker, our Senior Executive Director of Operations for our Community Services, Heather Magaro. Heather oversees our community-based children's services in Pennsylvania, Louisiana, and Michigan. Heather attained her master's degree in counseling psychology from Immaculata University and her ABA certification from the Florida Institute of Technology. Heather is a board-certified behavior analyst with over 12 years experience in the field. Heather resides in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania with her two children. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much, Ricardo, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited to share with you how Mary Key's community-based children's services have adapted and overcome to the obstacles we've faced over the last 5 months. But before I do that, I'd like to share a little bit about how Mary Key as an organization has overcome these obstacles. I think the one thing that we can all agree on is that the last 4 months have been some of the hardest many of us have ever faced. Panic, fear, uncertainty, all rolled into one. Here at Mary Key, we faced the unknown of funding, how we would support our families and staff with engaging in telehealth, how we would engage with them at all, how we would break the barriers of our participants with higher needs, and how we would get approval for our group services when we were told we couldn't. Despite all of this, I have never been more proud to work for this organization. Like many others, Mary Key shifted most community-based services to the telehealth platform. But what I believe is unique about Mary Key is the positivity that grew out of the pandemic. A company as large as Mary Key with over 10,000 employees and 50,000 consumers transitioned most services to telehealth overnight, with many working around the clock to make sure it happened, including our leadership team, our communication, billing, finance, IT, and many other departments. For those that don't know, Mary Key's name is derived from the modern Greek word Marikai, which means to put your heart and soul into everything you do. And Mary Key has stood by that name and faced this obstacle like any other with their heart and soul. While safety has been at the forefront, ensuring to sustain and grow a positive culture was also a priority. And we saw this with increased support groups for our families, consumers, and employees, increased communication from our leadership, Mary Key fundraisers to help support our frontline employees, and increased staff appreciation. So I'd like to give you a brief overview of our community-based children's services. These programs are behavioral health services provided within an individual's natural setting or in a center-based model, and serve the purpose of supporting the individual's behavioral needs in order to promote independence and a better quality of life. We are proud to support the great states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Louisiana, and we provide a variety of services including group, individual, ABA, and transition services. And you can see some of our programs listed here. And before I get into highlighting 2 of these programs, I want to give a big shout out to our community-based leadership team and staff. They have been nothing short of phenomenal during this unprecedented time. So now I'd like to highlight 2 programs within our community-based services, the first of which is our ABA centers. Our ABA centers are located in Louisiana and Michigan. In Louisiana, we have 2 locations in Hammond and Baton Rouge. And in Michigan, we have 3 locations in Dearborn, Flint, and Grand Rapids. For those that don't know, ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the science of changing socially significant behavior and has been empirically shown to be effective with a wide variety of areas, including parent training, substance abuse treatment, treatment of dementia management, brain injury rehabilitation, and many other areas. However, because ABA was first applied to the treatment of individuals with intellectual disabilities and autism, this practice area has the largest evidence base and has received the most recognition. So in our ABA centers, we use applied behavior analysis to treat the autism population. Our treatment team includes the board certified behavior analyst, the BCBA, the behavior technician who provides the frontline therapy working directly with the individual themselves, the family, of course, and then outside services that also work with the child. It's really important that we maintain that collaborative approach. We provide a variety of services at the centers, including individual ABA, group ABA, family training, assessments, as well as diagnostics. Like most of our other programs, in mid-March, we suspended all face-to-face services, and we had to shift our model to telehealth, which is really hard to do when you're working with individuals like you see here on the screen. We shifted our frontline therapy to telehealth when clinically appropriate. We continued to deliver our BCBA consultation and parent training. And through this, we continue to complete assessments and annual diagnostics via the telehealth platform. We added interactive therapy tools such as using boom cards and screen sharing. And now I'd like to show you a really brief clip of one of those telehealth sessions.
Yeah, miss you. Miss you. Good job.
It just brings a smile to my face every time I see that. What a great exchange that you can really, truly engage via the telehealth platform. Also in our ABA centers, we increased consult and family coaching because we know our individuals were home all day with their families, as many of us were, and we wanted to make sure they felt supported. We also tried to stay connected to our employees, especially those that weren't able to work, and we offered coffee breaks and lunch and learns just to make sure we maintained engagement with them. And before I move on to the next program highlight, I'd like to show you one more clip of one of our sessions.
Hi, buddy. Can you say hi to Luke and Brittany?
Wait,
Say hi, everybody.
Say hi to Luke. Say hi, Luke.
Hello. Can you say I miss you?
Oh. Can you say I miss you?
Hello, everybody. I miss you.
I will. Let's try it.
Hi. Hi.
He's giving the phone to her. Can you say hi? Say hi, everybody. Hi, everyone.
Thank you, buddy. That'll do it.
What I love about that clip is that you can see that the entire family is rallying around the individual to make sure that those target behaviors are still met. And I'm pleased to report that our ABA centers, through an immense amount of planning and diligence, have begun their planned reopening, resuming face-to-face services safely and successfully, while also continuing to provide services on telehealth. The next program I'd like to highlight is our Stepping Stones program. Stepping Stones is a group social skills program for individuals with autism and social pragmatic language disorder. We have 11 amazing locations in the state of Pennsylvania, and the target of the program is to really work on social skill development as well as behavior reductions, and eventually getting our individuals into more typically developing programs. And it is considered a step-down service compared to our one-to-one services. When COVID hit, this program was faced with an impossible task. And we were told that we would not be able to do group services via telehealth. I remember a dear colleague of mine saying to me, how can we possibly run groups virtually? That sat with me as we faced a 3-week journey to get our group services approved at the state level to convert to telehealth. We spent countless hours, revisions, and meetings planning. And when we finally got approval, it was go time. Participants like our friend Evan here are exactly why we fought so hard. And you can see Evan is in one of our Stepping Stone sessions in this picture, and he was able to type how he feels about seeing his Stepping Stones friends. Our Stepping Stones curriculum includes a schedule of structured activities in order to facilitate each participant's targeted goals. Weekly lessons plans apply ABA approaches to allow for natural fade-of supports and promote independence with our individuals. Some of the unique features that have helped us to increase engagement with our participants through the use of Zoom, that has been our primary platform, our screen and audio sharing. There's a whiteboard feature where participants can actually draw, other annotated features, and there's a unique feature called Spotlight, which we use as a visual cue for kids that may be reading or need to follow along with a game. It's similar to a pointer on your mouse. And the kids also like to use the responses or reactions. There's a thumbs up and a clap symbol, almost like an emoji, but in the Zoom platform. So now I'm going to show you a brief clip of one of our opening circles, which is the initial activity when our Stepping Stone session starts.
Let's go with John. Month.
August.
Bingo. So last time we met, it was not August. What was it last time we met, John?
March, I think.
Oh, so yeah, last time we met in person at Stepping Stones, it was March. I just meant last week when we met on the computer, what month was it?
July.
Yep, July. So we're in a new month, August.
Warms my heart. I love to see the interaction and the innovation that our teams are using. The COVID shutdown prompted a somewhat quick shift to the virtual social skills group. Once we finally had our approvals, our clinical leaders modified the weekly lesson plans to support the staff running these groups. And for our younger and older groups, topics of the day and conversation skills were added to the daily schedule. Videos were incorporated to help build upon the social lessons, and online turn-taking games were selected that allowed participants to actually manipulate the game themselves by sharing screen control, which is a really great feature. Sessions were shortened to 1 to 2 hours, depending on the child's stamina for remaining in front of the computer. And we also came up with a unique idea to have a parent-child group for our individuals who couldn't independently work in front of a computer. And that has been extremely successful. We wouldn't have been able to support those individuals without it. And that group also incorporates a virtual book related to the social lesson, as well as specific lessons targeting skills that those particular individuals need. And now I'm proud to say we have 20+ weeks worth of telehealth curriculum developed, and we're not stopping there. We're going to continue to develop and grow that curriculum. So now this is a brief clip of one of those online games I was referring to, and you'll see it here now.
Stop, raise your hand or give me a thumbs up if you think it is stop.
I agree.
I don't.
Well, Cam, what do you think it is?
I'm just messing with you.
Oh, okay. Just got a jokester. I see some thumbs up. Let's hit stop. Let's see. Yes, awesome. Answer streak is.
So it's a really unique feature, and you can see how the participants are continuing to engage with each other, even though they're over a screen and not in person. While we unfortunately have not been able to serve all of our participants this way, the data that we're collecting comparing in-person to telehealth services is extremely promising and shows that some of our participants are actually displaying more progress than they did pre-telehealth. Anecdotal reports that we have gotten from staff included several participants engaging more and increasing their conversation skills. one last video to show you of a stepping stone session right here, where you can see the individuals are sharing a drawing that they did.
And it looks like you added some sort of sprinkles or garnish, chocolate garnish at the top.
Fancy
I love
schmancy.
that. Look at that detail. Excellent.
Awesome following directions, Kim. I love it. And I have to say, you typically kind of say, oh, I don't have a pencil and that kind of thing. But today you did it and it's awesome and I love it. Great picture. You're very artistic.
Yes.
All right, Dan, let's see your grand reveal. Tell us about it.
Like a little bit. Oh, wow.
What do you notice? John, what do you notice about his?
Can't even see it.
You see it?
You all were frozen. Caitlin is. Brandon.
We're frozen. We're frozen like root beer floats.
You can see it's not as easy as it looks, but our staff are amazing at facilitating that engagement with our participants. And finally, I would just like to give a big shout out to our families. They are the backbone of what we do, and we truly can't say enough about them. And I'd like to show you a little clip from one of our parents speaking about that.
My son gets stepping stones and wraparound service during the pandemic. Stepping Stones does 3 calls a week, which is really beneficial to him because it keeps him in his routine. And I like that they have the schedule set up during those Zoom calls. Wraparound, she does the 1 call a week and she really pushes him out of his comfort zone. And she also brings us little daily supplies like little daily tasks cards. So that way it helps him go through about his day. And they both have had a very positive impact for him because it helps to keep him interacting with people, including the staff and other kids. And that I just want to say, everybody, thank you for your hard work during the pandemic. It's been really helpful to the families that need it, like ours.
Awesome. And I'd just like to leave you with some final thoughts. We know our world will not be the same. We know that things will be different. But with the village that we have to support our individuals, we know we're going to overcome. And what's next? We'll be adding more telehealth sessions. We'll be exploring and continuing to implement minimal face-to-face services safely while continuing telehealth. We'll continue to use our newly identified resources that we didn't realize were so valuable, such as, doing our supervisions over Zoom, being able to provide real-time feedback to our staff. And we'll be also looking to expand our reach, increase collaboration with our teammates in other locations and geographic areas, and hopefully reaching more participants in regions that we haven't been able to serve yet. Thank you so much for listening today, and I'm going to pass it back to Ricardo.
Heather, thank you for sharing how your programs within community services adapted to the challenges of COVID, providing those exciting success stories and giving us the chance to hear directly from a family on their experiences. As a reminder to our viewers, if you have questions during the presentations, please utilize the Q&A function on your screen. We will answer as many questions as possible after the final presentation. Now I'd like to introduce Mary Key's Senior Executive Director of Operations for our Family Services, Kim Caton. Mary Key's family services are provided in Pennsylvania and New York. Kim attained her master's degree in art therapy from Drexel University upon completion of her bachelor's degree in psychology from LaSalle University. Kim has been overseeing children's behavioral health programs at Mary Key since 2011, and she currently resides in the Philadelphia suburbs with her husband and 2 children. Ladies and gentlemen, Kim Caton.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome, Ricardo. As Ricardo said, I oversee our Family Services Division, which has a large number of different programs within its umbrella. And they do a number of very different things. So the changes that needed to be made to keep them functioning in our current environment were varied. For today's presentation, I'll be focusing on 3 specific ones. But if you have any questions about how other programs may have adapted to our circumstances, please feel free to include them in the question submission. The first program we're going to focus on is our foster care. Our foster care program group includes both Foster Care Plus, which provides stable homes for children who've been removed from theirs, as well as Therapeutic Family Care, which provides needed stable living environments for children who also have behavioral health difficulties. So the primary change that foster care will be maintaining is the use of technology to speed up the approval process for new foster parents, as well as being able to place children faster. So what we found is that by using online and Zoom trainings, first of all, we were able to compress the approval timeline. So one of the challenges that we have in getting our parents approved is there are a number of trainings that they absolutely have to do before they can be approved. And that takes a while to schedule, make sure that they can attend, they have transportation, they have childcare, things like that. By offering them all online during our current environment, we were able to achieve greater flexibility for working current or prospective foster parents, because maybe now they didn't need to take time off work. It alleviates the need for childcare if there are other children in the home, either foster children or the family's own children, because if you're not driving someplace for a training, if you're doing it, in front of your computer, you don't need to find a babysitter to watch your kids. And we also found that the lack of travel time made trainings easier to schedule and attend, because now instead of a parent needing to set aside maybe 2 hours for a training, it only takes an hour because they don't have to drive the half hour there and back. We were also able to utilize video technology to view conditions in the foster home. So for example, if in order to be approved, a family needed to add a bed to a bedroom, or cap a pipe, or repair something, the lack of travel time made the process more efficient to to schedule the verification. The necessary repairs or adjustments to the physical space were able to be quickly verified via video technology, rather than a staff needing to put in their schedule to drive out to the house, look at it, and come back. We also found that the increased use of social media and other online resources, we were able to identify and recruit potential foster parents in new ways. This was something that we had done previously, but the focus of our recruitment efforts was always on in-person events. Back to school nights, community resource fairs, industry events, things like that. Since obviously those aren't happening anymore, we sort of had to put our full attention on how can we do it. And social media is what we hit on. So we did Facebook Live events. We've got a Facebook page. Parents can apply directly online. And as a highlight of this recruitment activity, with our current processes in place, just one of our programs located in Juniata County currently has 17 different families in the process of becoming approved as foster parents. Now, that's unheard of even for pre-pandemic times. So the fact that this is something that we were able to do when we can't use any of those traditional recruiting methods really, I think, speaks to the effectiveness of the new ways that we were able to find. We also found that online or Zoom meetings and interviews with prospective foster parents and potential placements was a new tool in our toolbox as well. Again, just speaking to the lack of travel time, it makes everything easier to schedule. But the video calling also allowed for a connection between a child and foster parent prior to placement, even for emergency or last minute placements, which previously, we get a call from children and youth saying they have this kid needs to go someplace. Do we have an open home? We do, they'll take him or her, great, let's get the kid there. This way, the child can at least have some contact with that parent, see the home that they're going, and maybe feel a little bit more comfortable about where they're going. Because we know situations like this are going to be traumatic for every kid no matter what, but the better we can make them feel about where they're going ahead of time, hopefully the better they'll be able to adjust to that new placement and succeed there. The next service that I want to focus on is our family-based services. Family-based mental health is a short-term, very intense, all-inclusive service that uses the evidence-based practice of ecosystemic structural family therapy to work with the whole family to address the way the family's been functioning in order to affect change in the individual behaviors of individual family members. So one of the unexpected bonuses that we found to having to shift all of our programming online was actually increased fidelity to the model. So one of the biggest challenges of implementing evidence-based practices is maintaining fidelity to the model. They're evidence-based because we know that they have positive outcomes, but you only get those positive outcomes if you're actually doing it right. Because all of our sessions were happening over Zoom, this allowed the staff supervisors to oversee sessions directly, but without a pronounced observer effect. Obviously, the family is aware that the supervisor was there, but the supervisor is muted and their camera is turned off. So they're not really intruding into the process the way they would have if they were sitting in the living room with the family. So this allowed the supervisors to get a better look at what their staff were doing and provide more accurate feedback on how they should be handling certain situations, how they should be implementing the steps of the model to make sure that we're getting to the desired outcomes. We also found that the use of Zoom and other telehealth technologies allowed more opportunities for service delivery. Because at this point now everybody is used to using this technology, services that might have just been a quick phone call or something like that, we're now doing via the video. And that allows for more intense check-ins between what would have been face-to-face visits in terms of the longer sessions. And this is especially important during the engagement phase that begins treatment, because it really allows the clinicians to get a sense of how this family communicates together, how this family functions together during their normal day-to-day interactions, as opposed to how they may be communicating with each other during a, hey, this is a session, everybody let's sit around and work on things. So they found that they're able to progress further into the model faster because these engagement skills and the observation of the behaviors is happening more efficiently up front. The third service that I wanted to talk about today is our SAP program, Student Assistance Program. SAP is a prevention service that partners with school districts to provide assessments, resource linkages, and other prevention services, including evidence-based drug and alcohol curricula delivered as classroom lessons. Keyword there being classroom lessons. So as my, sorry, Drew. So and obviously classroom lessons weren't going to be happening anymore. So as my final note, I wanted to highlight an alternative service delivery employed by our SAP program in Montgomery County.
All right, come on, listen now. Be respectful. Yeah, yeah. Be skillful. Yeah, yeah.
Hello, my name is Angela Hiller, and I am a SAP counselor for Marikey.
Be respectful, be skillful, be a learner. Yeah, yeah. You come to school to learn, where there's lots of things to see and do, so make the most of it. The power is inside of you. Focus attention, listen with your ears, eyes, and brain. Use your self-talk, be assertive.
So as you can see, pretty much everything we did in terms of our prevention lessons, we had to do online via various social media venues. We did YouTube, we did Facebook, we did Instagram, you know, pretty much everything we could think of. But when all of these things that you're doing are through social media, your standard social media problem is how do we get traffic to those services? How do we get eyeballs on what we were doing? So one of the projects that we did was something called Prevention Pebbles, which is what you can see on the screen now. So the Prevention Pebbles were created and then distributed in neighborhoods throughout the school districts that we serve. So these rocks, as you can see, were painted with positive, eye-catching messages, but they also had our social media link information. So the feedback that we got from these was really good. We had a lot of messages coming into our Facebook page. It drove traffic to the lessons that we were providing. And this project was so well received, we actually merited a shout out from Montgomery County's Commissioner, Dr. Val Arkush, with how well it had been going and how nice it looked. So we were really thrilled that we were able to make our programming work in a way that we never thought we would have needed to. So thank you very much for your time and attention, and I will turn it over to Ricardo.
Thanks, Kim. The use of social media has clearly become a significant way to share exciting things happening within our programs. Don't forget to like Mary Key's Facebook pages, including our foster care and student assistance services pages. And just a quick reminder, if you have questions during the presentations, please utilize the Q&A function. We will answer as many questions as possible before we wrap up today's session. Now I would like to introduce Mary Key's Senior Executive Director of Operations for our Education Services, Tara Quinn. Tara oversees our education services in Pennsylvania and Texas. Tara obtained her master's degree in science from Western Maryland in special education and behavior management. Post-graduate school, she completed her certification in applied behavioral analysis at Penn State University. Tara has worked in the education and behavioral health industry for over 20 years and is the founder and chair of Autism Awareness Northeastern Pennsylvania, a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving and expanding services for individuals with autism in the Northeastern Pennsylvania area. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you, Ricardo. Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. Today, I'll be sharing with you the barriers that Mary Key Education has faced and continues to face throughout COVID. You will hear that despite the trials and tribulations, we continue to educate our students, and we ultimately will continue to grow through this otherwise difficult time. I'm going to first start by giving you a brief overview of our education program. In 2005, Mary Key listened to the voices of our parents and opened our first school in Hermione, Pennsylvania. Our education services are licensed, approved, and provided in 2 states, Pennsylvania and Texas. We currently have 12 schools in Pennsylvania and 1 in Texas. Throughout both states, we offer autism and emotional support education. Licensed and credentialed by the Pennsylvania Department of Education and the Texas Education Agency, Mary Key provides an academic program that allows students to gain the academic and behavioral skills necessary to successfully return to their home district. Our focus when a student comes to our school is to be able to understand what that student needs to be able to go back to what we call the least restrictive environment. So therefore, from day 1, we're planning discharge, which is what we want to do. We want to be able to get those students back to district. Our schools also provide ancillary services. These services can include speech therapy, occupational therapy, counseling, and ABA services, all of which are provided as recommended and outlined within each student's individualized education plan. We also provide in-district school models and model classrooms. These include therapeutic emotional support classrooms and traditional in-district model classrooms to support, again, that least restrictive environment. Our TES program and in-district models are designed to support students who have severe mental health needs that cannot be addressed with typical public school supports. And then in addition to all of this, we also have a comprehensive transition skills curriculum that, coupled with our strong partnerships and businesses throughout the state of Pennsylvania and Texas, result in competitive integrated employment for our students. Starting at age 14, our focus is on assessing the skills that each student possesses. We focus on transition and life skill goals to be able to promote a student, eventually an adult, who can integrate into the workforce and have self-employment. As we move through trying to strengthen and enhance all of the services that were just mentioned, it was pretty quick, in the blink of an eye, that COVID changed our world and how we operate within it. The global pandemic has placed many obstacles at the feet of students and families around the world. And these obstacles were and are further intensified by the unique needs of the student population that we serve. We saw that our families and students face many hurdles, such as quickly learning that technology, although readily available to some, is not necessarily available to all, and that many families face the struggle of limited access to technology and internet. Parents have been and continue to be forced to become teachers, clinicians, social coordinators, all while managing a home and possibly having to work from home as well. Students have and continue to struggle academically as they have to shift from a face-to-face way of learning, which is much easier for our population, to now finding a new sense of self-discipline, something that's extremely difficult for many students with special needs. We found that social and peer interactions became extremely limited to just screen time, the very thing we're trying to limit in our youth today. And as if school was not already boring enough for many students, it now became all the more difficult to find interest in the days that were limited to one student sitting in the absence of his or her peers with one screen and in many times the same room every day for months on end it's now been. We also have hurdles as educators, administrators, and schools. We found at Marikey that our staff, who may not have needed technology before because they were so good working with their hands face-to-face, teaching students, being there live, smiling, and showing all that motivation and encouragement, now had to rely on technology. And they may not have used technology as much in the past. And this is a hurdle that we're going to have to continue to overcome. Our teachers were faced to have to teach in a manner that was completely foreign to them. They were unprepared and still in some ways feel unprepared, although I think they're pretty ready for the fall, feel unprepared for what lies ahead. Our education plans that were well underway with all of our students in the middle of March, toward the end of the year, needed to be rewritten, goals had to be revised, all to be able to reflect this new environment and education world that we were going into. Teachers who had fully established their well-oiled machines in their classrooms now we're faced with needing to find a new way of regulating, motivating, and encouraging students in now a virtual classroom. So the obstacles were many. Although COVID has caused unsurmountable stress, anxiety, pain, and loss around the world, it has managed to also bring us closer together in so many ways. We have been forced to take a fresh look at how we live and work, not just within our own organization, but between organizations as well. By being pushed out of our comfort zone, our creativity and innovative thinking has become stronger, and we've been able to collaborate and bring positive change to what is otherwise a not so positive time. Marikey knew that these uncharted waters were going to require a renewed commitment to our stakeholders, including not just our staff and families and districts, but most of all our students. Our parents, families, and students need to know and believe that our commitment is unwavering. Throughout COVID, and on the other side of COVID as well, we will continue to provide a quality education and quality therapeutic services. In the spring, during the initial shutdown, parents and caregivers needed a quick transition. And it was hard to imagine what's going to happen now. Where's my student going to go? My child going to go? How is he or she going to learn? And in just 10 days, we turned our brick and mortar model of learning into a remote learning model. It wasn't easy. And I can't say that it was perfect at first. And there were lots of hurdles to overcome, but we did it. And we continue to work toward a model that we believe actually can be in existence post-COVID as well. Given the degree of uncertainty all around us, it's critical that we maintain consistent communication with our families, keeping them abreast of how we're advancing and enhancing our remote learning model. Our communication plan with our families was and still is the most essential part of our student success. Our success is also driven by the effective collaboration and communication we have with our LEAs. We are committed to meeting federal and state mandates and timelines, and we know there have been quite a few. So we'll continue to try to meet those, and we will. We are and we will continue to be committed to bringing parents and caregivers into the planning process. We have seen so much growth, not just in our students, but also in our families. Our families who have noticed that our kiddos that we teach every day that they don't get to see because they're maybe at work, they're now on the other side realizing that their students can accomplish so much more. We also know that we need to be flexible given the resources that are available to our families. We are still in a position where families may not have internet, unfortunately. And it's not because we couldn't get them internet, it's because they legitimately cannot have internet at their home where they're living. And Mary Key is committed to providing education regardless of the how. We will work with our LEAs and our parents to make sure that every student's needs are met. And finally, as students' needs change, we have to continue to work with our LEAs and our parents to modify and amend IEPs so that we're targeting those essential areas that meet each student's development. With all of this, we knew that we had to have a renewed way of delivering education. And in order to be able to accomplish many of this, we needed to make sure that not only our communication, as I just mentioned, was key, but that we were looking into what was really accessible and available to families. So the very first thing that we did with our families, and actually with also our staff, is that we completed a technology assessment to determine the access that families had to them available with devices and with internet. Each family's individual needs were addressed and everyone was different. We worked collaboratively with our IUs, our home districts, and alternate funding sources and options like grants, for instance, to be able to make sure that every family had what they needed in order to be able to educate their child. Our delivery of instruction was based on the resources that were available and accessible to families. If we were completely virtual with the family, it would have been through Google Classroom and will continue to be through Google Classroom, through FaceTime and or Google Duo. We also tangibly provided materials, packets of information, bins of manipulatives that were either dropped off or picked up by a parent, and of course in a safe manner. And for those families who maybe couldn't be virtual on a screen, we called them. And we walked through the process with them, and we walked through the process with the students as well. Our method of instruction and assessment, of course, also varied. Our curriculum access is and will continue to be based on each student's individual ability and need. We've used Pathblazer, Edgenuity, and unique learning systems, depending on the student population that we were working with. Unique Learning Systems also has additional resources that are accessible to our students, such as Positivity, Symbolsticks Prime, and News2You. We also explored a multitude of different applications for iPads that promoted interactive activities and a variety of other resources that were available to help us meet that natural environment teaching that we're trying to accomplish. Our teachers were working with our families to coordinate educational touch points to make sure that they too are communicating with families about the progress of their students. And when virtual access was not possible, that paper option was always available, but was always a last resort. We talked a lot about communication, and I think that, communication can be great if it's effective and it's efficient. And one of the things that we found to be the greatest asset to us overall is the communication that we had, like I mentioned earlier, with our parents and with our LEAs. Our parent-teacher communication was and will continue to be throughout this coming fall, facilitated on a weekly basis, in addition to all of the instruction that's being provided. Our parent resources and behavior intervention consults will be provided via Zoom and online and print resources so that parents can receive the consultation that they need in order to be able to work through some of the behaviors that are happening at home so that they can also support their children academically. Progress reports are completed weekly and are available to all of our families so they can see their progress as well. Mary Key's communication plan with our districts is also rather extensive. We want to make sure that our districts are aware of every step of the way, when we're having gaps in development or gaps in progress, when we're regressing and moving forward, when our parents are not able to be engaged or are able to be, where we can capture more opportunity. We want to make sure that our LEAs are aware of every step of the way so that ancillary services, supportive services, and educational needs are all met. We also know that outside of education, we have a very important role to play in each student's life with regard to related services or ancillary services. And we were able to provide these, both speech and occupational therapy, throughout the spring when we had the shutdown, and now again throughout the fall when we go back to school after September 8th. Marikey will ensure that to the greatest extent possible, every student is provided with all of his or her related services as they're outlined in each student's individualized education plan. One of the things that we found to be most productive for our families and for our children, our students, was that we were able to provide that parent training or parent consult. We offered, during COVID shutdown, and we'll continue to do it in the fall, we offered parent trainings, 3 different topics per week, and each topic was offered twice a week at a different time. So one topic was offered morning and evening, and so was the other 2, to allow for the flexibility for parents to be able to attend during a time that was going to be convenient for them. While attendance wasn't extremely high, we did find by the end of trying to perfect this process, ways to be able to get our parents more able to attend these trainings. But what we did also find was that parents that were able to attend and were able to reach out and receive the consult, they found that it was very productive. As mentioned earlier too, it was extremely hard to keep kids motivated to learn. It's academics. Kids in a typical classroom don't want to sit and have academics in front of them. So now we were faced with how are we going to continue to motivate all of these students who might have a hard time with attention span as it was, or might not be motivated to do a math lesson. So bi-weekly we had virtual assemblies. We offered them on Friday afternoons. We had a pen pal initiative that brought our students together from multiple programs actually throughout the organization. We did virtual field trips where students were able to go to amusement parks and museums and farms and other fun places. We also had virtual specials, which also was pretty fun. We were able to do phys ed, art lessons, science experiments, and daily life skills. We also had statewide virtual social skills groups. One of the greatest things that came out of this was that our students, although limited to that single screen that I spoke about earlier, and that chance to not have a peer next to him or her, they had the opportunity to meet new people and to engage across the state of Pennsylvania and even throughout Texas. And we really saw that the students were enjoying the opportunity to meet new people and to be able to share their likes, their dislikes, their fears, their feelings with other individuals across the state. It's actually pretty cool. And now we all ask ourselves, what next? Well, with improved technology that we may not have had pre-COVID, and the professional development that we may not have extensively had pre-COVID, we know that our staff are going to continue to deliver a state-of-the-art educational option for our students who have difficulties in district, and it's going to be better than ever. Our enhanced curriculum is also going to allow us to expand our educational opportunities to our students who thrived in this environment, but we didn't realize could thrive in a virtual environment. Our strength and renewed sense of energy is going to allow us to forward think of new ways to educate this unique population. We are going to come up with systems and have systems in place that are going to be so much more productive than it would have been pre-COVID. Additional educational resources that were added to our portfolio are only going to provide expanded opportunities for kids across this demographic. And we vow to be bigger, better, and brighter despite any adverse conditions placed before us. To think beyond the scope of who we were pre-COVID and build a rigorous academic platform to maximize our student success is just the beginning. Marikey chose early on to take the high road of bigger, better, and brighter because we knew that so many were depending upon us. So for all of our programs, community-based, family-based, educationally based, we are going to take that high road and we're going to look at COVID and we're going to let it know that it's not going to stop us. We are going to move forward, we are going to grow, and we are going to be better. Thank you.
Tara, thank you for providing those updates within the world of education and how our students and families adapted to using technology so they could continue learning and developing skills for the future. We hope you found this information provided today helpful as we continue adapting in this new COVID world. Throughout the presentations, we were taking your questions and we will answer as many as possible in the time that we have left. So let's dive right in. The first question is for Ms. Heather. What is the most helpful tip you can provide to those who are looking to run the group social skills services via telehealth?
there's lots of tips, but I would say the most useful would be to utilize all of your resources. And you may not even know about some of them yet. Be open-minded, utilize what you have in front of you, but also be open to exploring new resources. And I think in this world we live in now, that technological resource that we may not have tapped into yet is so important. We had no idea there were online interactive games that we could be using. And now we know we could probably use those in person as well. So just be open and utilize those resources that you have.
Thank you for that, Ms. Heather. Next question is for Ms. Kim. Did you encounter foster biological families that did not have access to technology? And how did you arrange visits for those families?
So that's a good question. And for those foster families who had difficulties either with the types of technology that they had or their, the quality of their internet service, we were able to either help them get those resources. We had a lot of luck applying for various grants and funds that were made available by various government entities to provide those specific things to assist with telehealth. Or if it was a larger problem than that, or just where they live happens to get no, signal or something like that, we would still provide our services in person. But we worked out a lot of different safe ways of doing it. We would do check-ins with the kids while they were, inside, and they would open the window and they would talk to the staff on the front lawn, or they would sit on opposite sides of the, the front porch or something like that. So, there were a lot of different individual situations. So we sort of had to figure out a solution for each individual situation as opposed to sort of sweeping, one size fits all. But that's a lot of what we're talking about today, the need to get creative with those individual challenges that pop up, and okay, how are we going to deal with this one today? So.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. The next question is for Ms. Tara. How can I get in the live chat regarding the 2021 school year?
I'm sorry, how can I get in the live chat? Did I understand the question correctly?
Let me see if I can help clarify. In the Q&A, it says, when will a live chat be with our home schools and notification of what's happening with the upcoming school year?
Oh, okay. Well, there should have been a letter that was already sent to all of our families and our staff and our LEAs indicating the module that was proposed for this coming school year. If you have not and you're a parent and you're inquiring, you most certainly can give the site director a call or an email and just let them know that you're interested in receiving the letter that maybe you missed in the email. And it outlines all of the preparedness that we're planning for the fall. So it's September 8th that our school year is starting, and we have a variety of different modules that we're starting with. Module 1 would be a full brick and mortar with Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Wednesday will be virtual. Hybrid, or Module 2 is a hybrid model, which includes 50% of our kiddos going Monday, Tuesday, and 50% of our kiddos going Thursday, Friday. And then Module 3 is full virtual. We did have a caveat in the letter that also indicated that there is a very possible chance that the module indicated just last week could possibly change before school year begins, with the many changes that are happening throughout last week and this week with regard to districts deciding to go virtual. But we will keep you notified. If anything changes, we will keep you notified, and you should probably receive a communication, if not 1, maybe 2 this week, and then 1 or 2 next week as well. Thank you, Heather.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Heather. And actually, this next question is for you. How have you handled the paperwork requirement for BSCs and others? And do you have an online system to access and submit, or are you using something else?
That's a really great question. So it's kind of answer it in twofold. So most of our programs use an electronic health record, which allows our staff to complete their progress notes, their treatment plans electronically, and that's been going on pre-COVID. So as far as our clinical documentation, that is all happening virtually and has been. As far as our other documentation, our billing documentation, things like that. We don't have necessarily a system, but we have electronic versions of the documents that we've been able to complete electronically. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Heather. Next question is for Ms. Tara. How do I get my child involved in virtual experiments and field trips?
Well, once school gets started, we will have those outlined and scheduled throughout the school year. So they would be part of your student's classroom. So your student would be able to access those right through the classroom activities.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tara. And the next question is for Ms. Heather. Can a child with autism receive ABA without losing their BSc?
So in the state of Pennsylvania, which I'm guessing you're referring to, a BSc, a behavior specialist consultant, can actually provide the ABA service as long as they're qualified. So so the answer is no, they would not lose their BSc. It would be an adaptation to the BSc service they're already receiving.
Thank you, Ms. Heather. And this next question is for Ms. Kim. If we lost our therapist during this time, can we get a new one to fill our services virtually?
Absolutely. So if you're the parent of a child or anybody was receiving services previously and they seem to have stalled out, that should not have happened. So you can certainly contact, there's going to be something sent out to everyone as soon as this webinar has concluded, and it'll have a contact email address. So if anybody is in that situation where they lost their therapist or their clinician or whoever, feel free to send an email to that email address, just indicating what county and what program you're referring to, and then we can have someone from that program reach out right away to find out how we can help.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. And that looks like all of our questions. But just in case if you have any additional questions for our presenters, or if you want to find out more about Mary Key's Children and Family Services, you can email at children-family@marykey.org, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible. Again, that is children-family@marykey.org. Thank you for joining us this evening, and please stay safe.
All right, come on, listen now. Be respectful,